Alright guys, on that note, we are unfortunately coming near the end of our tour. I do have a couple different options for you from here though. The first one is to get off at Fort Mackinac and check that out, which I highly recommend that you do. Tickets for the fort are $16.25 for an adult and around half that for children. It'll get you to the fort all day. When you're all done to the fort, you can go to the other side and walk down the hill that way. It's only a couple minute walk to the town.
We got off our carriage ride at Fort Mackinac and we're going to take a tour. It's open till 7 p.m. There is an admission fee. The hours are 9:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. So we're going to go take a look around. The ticket booth is right at the end of this boardwalk. And an adult day ticket is $16.25. Child ticket 5 to 12, $9.75. Here's the entrance. Fort Mackinac, 1780 to 1895. And this is what you first see when you walk through the gates of Fort Mackinac. Very pretty. A lot of different buildings we can go into. This is the reading room, built in 1879. It says they took steps to enlighten the army. And one of those steps was to maintain a library. They would have school for the soldiers, teaching them to read, write, do arithmetic, taught American history and other elementary subjects in nightly sessions. And of course, they had the books in the library. 600 old books in the library. By 1893, there were some 50,000 books that filled the Garrison libraries. And in 1882, officers estimated that nearly a quarter of all soldiers utilized the libraries on a regular basis. They have a really cool display of old books filling these shelves. And it reminds you of an old schoolhouse room. There's the chalkboard and the books and the desk. Oh, pretty cool. And what is this? This table has an interactive screen built into it. It says, what were soldiers reading? Harper's Weekly, Judge, Puck, The Graphic. So they had these periodicals to look at too in the library, as well as books. This is the North Blockhouse, built in 1798. There's a video that's going on in this building.
Understand, sir. They're ready. What do I do? Man the batteries. That constantly hold down. Sir. What do I do? Sir, I summon you to an unconditional surrender of the fort and the island of Mackinac to the arms of His Britannic Majesty. Faced with overwhelming odds, Hanks surrenders Fort Mackinac without resistance. The fall of Fort Mackinac opens the Michigan territory to invasion, and within a month, the British control most of the Great Lakes region. Fort Mackinac remains in British hands until the War of 1812 ends.
The video is called Attack at Fort Mackinac. At 6 p.m. there's supposed to be a rifle firing demonstration, and at 6:30 a cannon firing demonstration. These are the hill quarters, built in 1835. This was a residence of Lieutenant Calvin D. Cowles. He tells about his family arriving here after a journey of about 2,000 miles. Looks like a dining room, kitchen area. Here's another part of the house. What would this be, like a sitting room? This tells something about the post surgeon. And a bedroom, dining room. There's some good views from Fort Mackinac too. You can see pretty far from here. There's the docks down there where people are waiting to get on a ferry. And the fort is surrounded by a spiked wooden fence. A little corner lookout spot or guardhouse. This is the West Blockhouse, built in 1799. But Fort Mackinac was started during the Revolutionary War. See what the view is from here. Yeah, it's part of the golf course. Some houses there. It's part of the downtown area. This is the West Blockhouse. They built 3 blockhouses to defend Fort Mackinac. Constructed with limestone and hewn timbers, the blockhouses served as defensive strong points. And there's an old cannon that overlooks the harbor. Such a pretty little city. Wow. This is a good place to come just to get some good views. There's one of the ferries coming in. And there's a church. This is the tea room. And you can get something to eat and drink here. We're at the back side of it. This building was the post hospital. It was built in 1828.
An estimated 3 million people die of the disease each year, mostly in Africa, Asia, and Latin America.
Private Michael Tibeti, in attempting to scale the fort wall, fell and fractured both bones in his lower leg, 5 inches above the ankle. I aligned the bones and applied splints and dressings. In due course of time, the fibula became sound, but the tibia united very reluctantly. However, I remedied this by firmly binding the leg with a piece of leather, softened in warm water and laced snugly to the ankle. This served to hold the broken portions of the bone together. In 30 days, the union has become perfect.
It shows some of the procedures and tools they use to treat the soldiers and their families. It's a big stethoscope and a microscope. It's the guardhouse.
My name's Chase. I'm wearing the dress uniform of the 23rd Infantry Regiment, who was stationed here from 1884 to 1890. I will be doing the rifle firing demonstration, and I'll shoot this rifle. But first, I want to give a little context about why we're here, what the soldiers were doing with these rifles, and how they would train with them. So again, this was the second national park here, just a few years after Yellowstone. And in theory and in name, the soldiers here were supposed to be maintainers of the park because there was no National Park Service yet. So it was handed off to the War Department to take care of these, to take care of the park. But the soldiers would be very occupied with their normal soldierly duties, such as guard mount, where they would have a 24-hour watch around the fort and the town below. They would also have fatigue duty, where they'd be maintaining the parks, maintaining the fort and the outside, like painting, cutting the grass. They would also have extra duty like making roads, building buildings, and all that stuff. But they would also have to train twice a week at the range. Again, soldiers would be practicing twice a week at the minimum, up to 5 times. They would be using this rifle, which is the Springfield 4570. It was adopted in 1873. It was the first breech-loading black powder rifle that was adopted by the U.S. military, which means everybody in the U.S. military would get a version of this, or something like it. Like the cavalry would have a shorter one, and the infantry would have this one. In a later adoption would become they would have a different sight besides this one, which could only go up to around 600 yards. So there was an adoption called the I'm pretty sure it was the P40 sight that was adopted that could adjust for windage and go all the way up to 1,200 yards, which was the effective maximum range of this rifle.
This is the Subsistence Department USA, which is actually the gift shop. They have some ornaments for sale.
We couldn't get this home without breaking.
Oh, yeah. Mackinac Island ornaments. All kinds of things. There's calendars. A book about the gardens of Mackinac Island. And you can press pennies here. There's one for Arch Rock, Mackinac Island, Fort Mackinac, different ones for Fort Mackinac and for Mackinac Island. And there's clothing back there, jewelry. There's t-shirts and sweatshirts for adults and for kids. And replica shells. That's cool. A bottle that looks like a metal bullet. And there's a cavalry bugle. $60.95. That building was the soldiers' barracks. It was built in 1859. There's an office building built in 1853. And just various other buildings that they needed to run Fort Mackinac. There's the quartermaster storehouse. And there are restrooms here on site for the public to use. And there's even a post bathhouse built in 1885. Here's another good view from the fort. You can see all the carriages going by. And the marina. And the very pretty downtown Main Street area. And this is the cannon they're going to fire later. And it overlooks the marina and the main street down there. And they're going to do that in a few minutes at 6:30. There's a group that stops at each flag.
You better cover your ears.
I am Clay. This is Chase. This will be our last cannon demonstration of the day. It would be their job to fire what's called a salute shot. A salute shot, of course, is a blank charge of powder being marked a certain time or a certain occasion. Now, by firing a cannon. Who doesn't like cannons? Exactly. They fire the salute shot at least twice a day. Once they raise the flag over the fort in the morning, and once in the evening, like the scouts just did, as they fired a cannon and lowered the flag over the fort. Basically marking the beginning and the end of the workday. Also makes for a really good alarm clock, if you can imagine that. They fire the salute shots for large federal holidays, things like the 4th of July or Decoration Day, which we now call Memorial Day. Would have fired what they call a national salute for those particular occasions. That being one shot for each state currently within the Union. Back in 1889, there were 38 states, so they would have been firing 38 shots at the crack of dawn. Exactly. Everybody down there, once again, massive alarm clock. But they'd also fire these cannons for more somber occasions if need be. For instance, when former President Ulysses S. Grant passed away during the 1880s, the men here at Fort Mackinac fired off a series of shots just in his honor as well. Basically, they were finding any and every excuse to fire a cannon off possible, because it's a cannon. Who wouldn't want to fire off a cannon? The cannon they're doing that with, though, is quite like this. The 1841 6-pound smoothbore field gun. Very, very complicated, the long name, but the most important aspect of that is the date, 1841. We're in the 1880s. It's a very old cannon. In fact, this is essentially the dinosaur of cannon technology by this time period. So why do they have such an old cannon here at Fort Mackinac? Well, it's the national park. It's a very peaceful post. They don't need anything better than this because nobody's attacking this place. In fact, the most dangerous thing on Mackinac Island is just the soldiers when they're drunk. So this is more than enough. Which shoots down into the touch hole, into the main charge, hopefully setting it off. Sometimes it doesn't. So I'm going to knock on wood, and this is my time to remind you, this is the cannon. Cannons are loud. So either use your historically accurate fingertips and plug your ears, or press record, depending on what you prioritize in life. So now that we've done that, there are only two mortal subjects left, and those are ready, fire! Well, there you go. If you got any questions for us or about the gun, we'll be cleaning the piece for just a few minutes. Aside from that, this was our last demonstration of the day. The fort does close at 7. But until then, feel free to look around and enjoy your time here on Mackinac Island. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ready, go!
We had a good time at Fort Mackinac. They do a lot of things during the day. There's something scheduled almost every hour. And we just saw the rifle firing demonstration, the cannon firing demonstration, the taking down of the flags, and it was all very impressive.